Hey y'all, Tanny Cooks here, and today is January 1, and I am showing you a traditional Southern New Year's Day meal. We have spiral ham, greens, and black-eyed peas, as well as some beautifully golden cornbread. So, let's get to cooking. Now, this is a traditional meal because the pig roots forward, which represents prosperity. The greens represent money. The black-eyed peas resemble coins, and the cornbread represents gold. So, it's all for prosperity in all ways. So, I have collard greens in a bag, fresh turnip greens, and my buttermilk, my sugar flour ready for my cornbread. I have a spiral ham that we're going to make in the crock pot, and we're going to season it with some pineapples and other flavorings. And yeah, let's get started. So, spiral ham is pretty yummy. This is honey cured, so I don't need to do a lot to it. It is 8.5 pounds, $3.99 a pound, so $34. Yeah, too much. But look at the bottom. I got it on sale for $15, so it was about on sale for $1.99 a pound, which works. I have a 20-ounce can of pineapple chunks. We're going to use that and the juice. I do not use the honey pack that comes with the ham, and I am using some fresh onions. So I have one medium fresh onion chopped up and in the bottom of my crock pot, and I'm pouring in my can of pineapple chunks. Now I'm pouring in the juice, most of the juice and half of the chunks. We're going to save some to put on top. You can also season, put a pinch of cumin, coriander, cloves, onion powder, or some orange slices at the bottom if you want additional seasonings. I didn't do this here, but you can certainly do it, and I've done it at different times. If you've ever seen any of my vegetables, you know I wash my meat before I eat it, and this ham is no different. So I just rinse it off. You never know who touched it last before it was in the pack. I wash my hands many times during every cooking process. Here, after finishing the meat, I wash my hands and I sanitize my sink with bleach, ammonia, Lysol, or Pine Sol. Just don't mix the chemicals. Pick one and clean your kitchen and rinse everything with water and you'll be good. So I have my ham in my crock pot and I'm pouring the remainder of my pineapple juice and pineapple chunks on top. You want to be sure when you buy your ham that it will fit into your crock pot. So make sure you have the appropriate size. And this was just perfect, except for the top wouldn't fit completely. So as a trick, what I do is just put a piece of aluminum foil to secure it tightly. Now, use pot holders if your crock pot has been preheating like mine so you don't burn your hands. Now that the ham is going, I'm prepping my black-eyed peas. This is a 32-ounce bag. The nutrition facts are pretty clean. There are plenty of servings per this one bag, 100 calories a serving. There is a good amount of carbs, but also fiber, protein, and potassium. So there are definitely health benefits to eating beans, and it helps keep you full throughout the day. So maybe you don't want to eat other stuff that isn't as healthy for you. These are my 2 bunches of mustard greens, and now I am washing my beans. Now, you could definitely do this the night before. Just pick a big bowl and soak your greens in cool water, and then pick out any pieces of gravel, rocks. Occasionally, you might find those, but usually I just find beans that are super dried out or extra hard, or you might find little pieces that are floating in the water that you don't want to boil in your pot. So just go through with your hands and make sure all you have is beans. Cooking is so much fun. The textures, the sounds are enjoyable. So definitely have fun while you're cooking your food. So I'm only soaking these beans for a couple of hours before I cook them. So I put a top on it and set it to the side. In my other big bowl, I am putting vinegar, white vinegar, and water because I'm going to clean my mustard greens. So you'll notice in the beginning of this video, my collard greens were already pre-shredded and cleaned in a bag. These are just loose turnip greens that just had a tie on them. So I'm taking the tie off, but I decided to get my kitchen shears and cut off the bottom. The bottom part tends to get a little woodsy, a little tough. So I like to cut those off so that I don't accidentally cook that part. And then I'm able to get the tie off easy. And since these are fresh greens, some pieces are discolored. There might be little insects included in the bunch of vegetables. So you want to be sure to pick through each leaf and inspect it carefully and be sure to clean it well. We're going to do this cleaning process multiple times of putting it in a bowl of fresh water and white vinegar and then lifting it up and transferring it to another bowl with clean water until our water in our bowl stays clean after we take the greens out. Usually it'll be 2 or 3, maybe 4 times depending upon the green. So just continue to pick through and take out any pieces that are discolored. What you can see me doing here is I have my second bowl and I'm also picking the leaves off of the stem. Now, some people like to eat the stem. I personally don't mind it because these stems are small. They're not as big as collard green stems, but some people Don't want to see any stems in their greens. And I like to cook however the person I'm cooking for prefers. So this time cooking for my family, I took out most of the stems of these turnip greens, but you can certainly cook it however you prefer. So I am not cutting these up with a knife. You'll notice I'm just ripping them with my hands. Turnip green leaves are a lot thinner than the collard green leaves. So you'll notice later that I'm going to put my collard greens in my pot to cook first, to cook down some, and then I'm going to add my turnip greens a little bit later. And so, yeah, just take your leaf and pull the leaf off of the stem and discard the stem. And be sure to look at both sides of your leaf to make sure it is completely clean. I just want to briefly show you this part of the process. As I'm picking the leaves off of the stems and putting it into the new bowl, I'm adding fresh water. You can also add fresh vinegar in order to help them clean even further. So we want to make sure that there's no sand, dirt, or insects in our greens. So we rinse them several times and lift them up out of that bowl and put them into the next bowl. And there's the white vinegar. And you can see, look, that looks like some kind of insect on the bottom of that leaf. And so that's why you want to inspect each leaf carefully, because not all of the debris comes off easily just by soaking. So you do have to agitate the water with your hands and literally look at each side of the green. Now, this is another bowl that has the bag of collard greens, and I'm just doing 1 pound. This is a 2-pound bag of shredded collard greens. They still will get washed in my kitchen so I can pick through the pieces that I don't like. Now, this step here, I'm showing you I have a colander in a big stainless steel bowl. I made some homemade veggie stock, and that's what I'm going to cook my beans and greens in, because I'm not cooking my beans and greens in meat. With meat, I'm using veggie stock, and I have a whole separate video for veggie stock, so I won't show that here. I'll just link it at the end. We don't need the remaining vegetables. They've done their job. We cook them down. And this stock is so flavorful, way better than store brand veggie stock. And it's so much cheaper to make it at home. So be sure to check out that video. So half of the stock I put into one pot, and the other half is going to go in another pot. This pot is going to cook my greens. So I'm just putting in my collard greens first, as I mentioned I would do. And look how they shrink down so fast when they hit that hot stock. But we're going to let this cook down maybe 30 minutes or so, and then I'm going to add my turnip greens to it. In my second big pot, I'm adding the remainder of my veggie stock, and this is what I'm going to use to cook the beans for additional flavor without adding meat. So I'm just going to let this come to a boil as I get my black eyed peas ready. So you'll remember that I had these black eyed peas soaking in water. They've swollen up a little bit, as we expect them to do, as they absorb some water. And I'm just using this last moment of transferring the beans from the water to a clean bowl to pick out any pieces that I don't want. And look at this water, y'all. This is why we clean our beans and greens. Now, I'm careful not to get these extra few beans in my drain. I'll just throw those in my trash can. Now I'm ready to transfer my 32 ounces of beans to my pot of hot veggie stock. And just scoop your beans in without splattering yourself with that hot stock. So now I'm just going to pour the rest in, and it'll just be easier to get it over with quickly. These are black eyed peas. And so if we need to add more liquid during the cooking process, then we'll do that later. Now we're going to turn back to our ham and take the lid off. And it's only been cooking for about 1.5 hours, but look at that liquid that's in there. Remember, we didn't add any other than the pineapple juice in the can, as well as the onion. So this will release its own moisture and juices, and I'm basting that. I have a slotted spoon, so use a spoon without slots in it if you really want to baste it well. I'm just curious to see what the temperature will be. I know the ham won't be fully cooked within the 2-hour period, but I'm just curious. So I'm putting in my meat thermometer to see what the temperature is, and it was 125 degrees Fahrenheit on that top side. So now I'm coming back to my black eyed peas. You'll notice some of the stock has cooked out, and I'm adding more seasoning. So I added a half a stick of butter. I've added more black pepper, some salt. I'm adding golden monk fruit. This is a 100% non-sugar ingredient, so it's sugar-free. It won't raise your insulin, which is very helpful for people that are diabetics or people that just don't want to raise their insulin, like if you're trying to lose weight. So I added a total of 1 cup. Now, if you're using brown sugar, typically I would add 1.5, 2 cups of brown sugar. But since I'm being healthier, I don't want to add a whole bunch of monk fruit to start with. I'm going to season it this one time first and then let it cook down a bit, and then I'll taste it again. And if I want to add more monk fruit, then I will at that time. So since my ham is cooked on the bottom part, but the top is still 125 degrees, I am going to flip it over, which is easier than I thought it would be. So I just used 2 slotted spoons, 2 big spoons, to turn the ham over. So the part that had been at the bottom that's cooked through is now at the top, and the part that was at the top is now at the bottom. And so I'll let it cook for another hour or so until both sides reach at least 140 degrees Fahrenheit. And I put the thermometer in now so you can see what this temperature is, and look at it go up. And it hit 140 perfectly, and it actually went up a little bit more, and that's okay. Oh, 145. So it'll probably hit at least 150, and some people do like their food cooked more than others. But I continue to baste it with that hot liquid. And then once it's reached 140 degrees on both ends, I'm taking it out of the crock pot, and I'm just going to sit it in a pan to let it rest while the rest of my food cooks. And look at that, y'all. Now, I didn't add any honey, any glaze, because it actually tastes really delicious as is. So taste it first before you start adding sweeteners to it. You may find that you don't need it. I've checked my greens and they are cooking through. I'm just going to add a few more seasonings to season it to my taste. I encourage you to do the same. If you feel like it needs some garlic, some onion powder, you could add a capful of vinegar as well. You could add chopped pimentos. I always add poultry seasoning. Poultry seasoning is vegan. It contains thyme, marjoram, rosemary, black pepper, and nutmeg. So it doesn't actually contain any meat products, but it's just a good flavor blend to use on your poultry. And there is some sea salt, and no, that was seasoning salt, and I added a half a stick of butter. You could use olive oil if you want to instead of butter. That is absolutely a good choice as well. So just give that a stir and then add your lid back on. So now it's time to flip back over. So as I'm cooking, I go back and forth between all of my pots to check them and see how they're doing. I decided that my black eyed peas needed a little more sweetness, so I added another cup of golden monk fruit just to make it taste more similar to the traditional way with brown sugar. But again, sweeten these beans to your personal taste. So now my greens are at a rolling boil. They are super tender, super delicious. I'm just giving it a quick stir, and I am adding liquid smoke. I love liquid smoke. When I don't add meat, it adds the smoky flavor that I like, even though it is a processed ingredient. And I add more poultry seasoning and this Viva Doria hickory smoked sea salt. I bought this 2-pound bag from Amazon, and I have a link to it in my description box. I just used a literal tablespoon, and I put half of it in to taste it first. And then if I want to add more salt later, I certainly will. But look at this, y'all. My whole meal has come together. My spiral ham is sliced on the plate. I have my greens. I have my black eyed peas and my delicious cornbread. Be sure to check the description in the comment for the link to the video to see how to make this cornbread.